This is Truffle. She is a Toffee belly albinomorph, otherwise known as a Toffee glow, and she is a western or plains hognose snake. She hatched on July 12th, 2022. This video shows my very first time meeting her. I'm at the Pacific Northwest Reptile Show on January 28th and in the process of falling head over heels for this tiny little sweetheart. The vendor I got her from is called Urban Dinos, or Snakeful Grace as they were listed at the show, and they were originally calling her Gummy Bear. I had no intentions of getting any new pets while I was working at the show. I was volunteering for Seacon staffing and helping with the admissions booth, but I couldn't resist going to take a look around beforehand and see all the pretty scaly animals that were there. And when I walked up to Snakeful Grace's booth with all these adorable tiny snakes on display, they asked me if I wanted to hold one. And that was really all it took for me to become smitten with hognoses. Especially this one. Before we brought her home, we spoke with Jordan and one of the other folks working at the booth that day about hognose care, so that we'd know how to get started, and bought a beginner's kit from them, which included a small plastic tub, as you can see here, with a locking top that had vent holes soldered in the side, aspen chips for the substrate, fake flowers and leaves for enrichment, one small hide, we also went and got our own little coconut hide, and a seedling heating mat to ensure that she could stay warm. She also had a little water bowl that came with the kit. We soon learned, though, that the varying levels of chlorine, chloramines, and other potentially toxic compounds in tap water are not good for reptiles, and so we also purchased an overnighted Reptisafe from ZooMed, which is a water conditioner specifically for reptiles that removes these compounds and also adds electrolytes. I'll include a link to where you can purchase this if you'd like. Well, we waited 4 days before feeding her for the first time. It's good to wait a few days before feeding a new snake because they're probably stressed out and might not eat anyway, but also to just give them some privacy and alone time while they get used to their new home before interacting with them. So that's what we did with her. During which we spent many, many hours learning about hognose snakes and their care from knowledgeable and passionate breeders, rescuers, educators, and just animal lovers of all kind, many of which have books, articles, and care guides, several of which we've purchased, as well as informational videos on YouTube. I can't tell you how many hours I've spent watching and rewatching hognose snakes videos, specifically from Snake Discovery with Emily and Ed. They're just the best. I definitely recommend Snake Discovery for good educational videos on reptile care. I would also recommend Clint's Reptiles, Elle's Reptiles, Jessica's Animal Friends, and Green Room Pythons for their good educational content and also just how enjoyable they are to learn from. This clip, by the way, is of my very first time feeding Truffle, which you can see the beginning of in our feeding compilation video. She has been a good, enthusiastic eater from the get-go, which is one of the things that Urban Dinos had let me know about her before I got her at the show, and was one of the reasons I felt good about taking her home even as a new hognose keeper. If you're curious, by the way, about what mice we feed, we decided to go with Lane Labs frozen mice. I'm a pet nutritionist, and so one of my top priorities is ensuring every pet in my house has the best, safest possible diet that I can give them, and Lane Labs was top choice for me for several reasons. Other reputable mice suppliers that I'd recommend after looking at all the options are Perfect Prey and Big Cheese Rodents. When we first got Truffle, she weighed 12 grams. That's the exact same weight as a single AAA battery. She's so tiny. When weighing her just a few days ago, she's now up to 16 grams. And we haven't measured her yet to see how long she is, but when she stretches out along her tank, she's about a foot from what I can tell. When female plains hognose snakes are full grown, they reach each about 20 to 33 inches in length, or roughly 3 feet, and 150 to 350 grams. After we got Truffle, we moved her into a slightly bigger tub and changed her over to the ZooMed Aspen snake bedding. We did this because she was being very active, as you can see, exploring, trying to dig, and the sandy chips just don't hold their shape for burrowing like this aspen bedding does, and she immediately took to and appeared to enjoy digging around in her new space and better substrate. There were a lot of different substrates to choose from, but after looking into many of them and their pros and cons, what made sense for Hognose, this aspen bedding really seems the best, and so far it's been working fabulously. I also bought little 3D printed humid hides from Emporium Goods LLC on Etsy, which I'll share a link to in the description. And it turned out that was perfect timing because not long after, she shed. That's a picture of her shed skin, which I saved, as well as Artemis's shed skin. I don't know how to describe the immense feeling of pride coupled with excitement that I got. Seeing her first time shedding and how perfect it was. The humid hide, which was something I decided was a must have after watching a particular snake discovery video, really worked well. I definitely recommend using not a human, humid hide for any snake that you notice has gone into blue, or basically has begun shedding. Considering it was my first time keeping a snake that was going into shed, it went brilliantly. And then I had the same result with Artemis, seen here in a homemade humid hide. I will swear by these from now on. Also, Truffle's colors right after her shed were just brilliant. Now, I don't know how common this is because I haven't seen anyone really talking about it, but several days before she even went into blue, Truffle's usually very sweet demeanor suddenly changed, and she was acting like a very sassy, grumpy hognose snake. Because it was not typical for her, I immediately became worried and tried to figure out what could cause a personality change like that. But a few days later, her eyes were noticeably cloudy, and a day or two after that, she was in full on zombie mode. I don't have any pictures or footage of this because I was trying to let her be as much as possible. That's when I put her in the humid hide and showed her how to get in, and then she used it herself for several days after that. Right now, one of our other snakes, Chroma, also just went into blue, and for the last few days, she's been grouchy and hiding more as well. So it might be common and it's not talked about a whole lot, or it might be something that these two particular female snakes of ours happen to have in common. But now I know for Truffle, at least, that when she is suddenly and atypically sassy, it's probably because she's getting ready to shed, and it can be an uncomfortable or even somewhat stressful time for snakes. This is just a quick side note, but I also got this really cute mason jar specifically for thawing mycin from Modern Day Witch Goods on Etsy, and I'll share the link to that as well in case any of you want one too. But I wanted to point out that this is where Truffle's food is thawed. About a month and a half after getting Truffle, we moved her into an Exoterra front opening vivarium. This gave her a little more room to explore, helped cut down on extra humidity, which can sometimes be a problem with the bins if you don't know where to put the holes. Took us a minute to figure that out. And made her enclosure really nice to look at. It's also nice to have front opening enclosures because then you're doing a lot less reaching overhead and they can tell the difference between, fingers and not fingers. She really loves this little tree that I found on Amazon for her, and I'm really happy with it because it helped her with removing her shed. And it has no sharp edges like so many of the fish and reptile products that I have found available. She has been in her new enclosure for a few weeks now, and she's still just as active and curious and as cute as ever. Funnily enough, she also seems to like to eat on the tree, so that's another weirdly nice bonus. Although aspen is digestible in small amounts, it's good practice and best for your snake's safety to avoid them ingesting a bunch of their substrate if possible. I think the exception may be if you're keeping your snake in a bioactive enclosure, where perhaps the substrate can actually provide small amounts of nutrients when ingested along with their food, but that's not what I have here, and it's something I'll want to research thoroughly before ever trying. All in all, Truffle was my first hognose snake. I adore her immensely, and she is the reason I was introduced to the wonderful community that is reptile keepers. And I'm so thankful to Urban Dinos, to all the reptile educators making content online, and to Truffle, my little Truffle girl, for making my first experience with Hognoses so gentle and friendly that had to take her home and make her part of my life. And Truffle she has literally changed my day-to-day life and the focus that my current and future hobbies has taken. Getting Truffle inspired my husband to come back the very next day and pick out his own Hognose snake, Pixel, who will be the star of the next video in this series. And now we currently have 9 snakes, including Pan, our sweet little corn snake. And we spend several hours every day learning about snakes, studying the necessities of what it takes to successfully breed hognose snakes, and enjoying interacting and bonding with all 14 of our animals. Truffle is the reason Heart Scales exists, and why one day we plan to become a high-end, high-quality hognose breeder in Washington state with socialized, gorgeous, healthy hognose snakes by 2 people who love animals and each other and have a strong focus on good husbandry and excellent nutrition. Thank you all for watching. I really hope you enjoyed meeting Truffle. Stay tuned for part 2 of the Get to Know Our Snake series for Pixel, as well as a surprise video coming up about the new critter that we adopted just 2 weeks ago. Look how cute that belly is. Say bye, Truffle.